Let's get into it. This is TeenSpace. Hello and welcome to the TeenSpace Podcast. My name is Danielle, your host, and today we are interviewing a new member of TeenSpace. Say hello to the founder of our New York chapter, Saswati Bhattacharya. Hi, Saswati.
Hey, Danielle. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it.
I'm really excited to have you here. So, would you like to introduce yourself really quickly?
Sure. Well, as you know, my name is Saswati Bhattacharya, and I am the founder of the New York TeenSpace chapter. I'm a current senior at Climac High School. Some of the things I like to do are play flute, read, and watch Stranger Things.
Oh my gosh, I've heard so many things about Stranger Things. Personally, I haven't watched it myself, but I just know that spending an afternoon binging a TV show, that's just the best thing you could do. I definitely have my own favorites, but is there anything in particular that you like about Stranger Things? This is off topic, but
Oh no, you're fine. You totally should, especially with season 5 coming up, which I'm incredibly excited for. But I think my favorite part was the sort of found family trope where everyone kind of came together to support each other, which is like one of my favorite tropes in like all of media/literature. So I think that's what really drew me into Stranger Things.
that sounds wonderful. Okay, maybe now I have to watch it. I'm really excited just hearing that. But anyway, without further ado, let's get straight into the interview. Do you mind telling us a little bit about what inspired you to join this organization?
So, funny story, I was actually thinking of creating like something very similar to this organization, but at the time I was in the middle of my junior year midterm season, so it did not end up happening since I had a lot on my plate. So, I think it was around April where, do you know Lily Park?
Yes. I think she's our current co-vice president.
Yeah, so I followed her on Instagram because I knew her from Map, and she posted on her story about TeenSpace. And I was like, oh my goodness, that this sounds exactly like what I wanted to do. So I reached out to her. I was like in class, and I was like, hey, like, are you guys still accepting applications for TeenSpace? And she was like, yeah, of course, you should totally apply. And when I applied, what ended up happening was because I live in a completely different state from everyone else in TeenSpace, Nisha ended up asking me to become the founder of the New York chapter.
That's so wonderful. I love to see that TeenSpace kind of reaches beyond state borders, and obviously, as one of our first chapter directors out of state, it's really nice to just hear about how passionate you are. More on that passion, do you have a connection to mental health advocacy? Like, what currently is your connection, and was there a personal moment that made it meaningful for you?
So for me, mental health has always been sort of around me because some of my closest friends have struggled with mental health, and a lot of the people that I know really struggle with mental health are often the ones who don't have the support at home in order to really deal with that mental health. And even if they are given that support because of the environment they are in and the people that often surround them, they don't really have an outlet in order to really better themselves and really take care of that mental health. So for TeenSpace, it was really a more professional way of how I usually, me and some of my other friends, try to support these people. Because what ends up happening is that me or other people in my friend group would have to sort of support them in place of like the people who are actually meant to be there. So for me, TeenSpace is sort of that place where teens in like our organization can step up and be leaders in mental health, and that's what caused me to join it because I really liked how it was sort of like teens taking the stand and like taking the action to actually do something about the mental health crisis.
Absolutely. I love how you phrased it. I think that TeenSpace as a whole, our message is to sort of provide that platform for teens to speak up about everything, just as you said. And I've spoken to mental health professionals, and honestly, this is kind of the gap in, I guess, mental health advocacy right now. And I think that it's really important that we're branching out, and I'm really excited to see everything that you do with the New York chapter, especially branching out TeenSpace. Moving on to starting the chapter, what was the first step you took once you decided to start one?
I think starting the chapter, first I had to make the Instagram page, which was interesting because I've never really been a social media person. So that was, I think, annoying trying to figure out how Instagram works and like creating public accounts and public posts. And then it was building my team. Shout out to them, they're amazing. And since obviously I didn't have much of a social media presence, actually getting TeenSpace out there, like my particular chapter, was kind of hard because I didn't really have people where I could really like show that off to. So I think that was sort of one of my main struggles. But once I got people, now it's fundraising and starting up events for real.
That's so interesting. I totally understand how that could have been a little bit of a struggle, but from what I see, you guys are doing great. Really, I think that from your instance where you're kind of starting from the ground up, it's inspiring to see how you're kind of pushing past any of those difficulties and moving forward. What has been the most exciting part of the process so far?
I think right now, which is officially starting our fundraising and planning our first event. So right now we're trying to figure out how we can start our fundraising in order to hold events because we're not an official club, so it's been a little difficult trying to make those fundraising. But what I'm really excited for is that once we have some money in order to create events and in order to donate, we can start doing monthly events. So yeah, that's the most exciting part right now. I'm excited to really start making like a in-person impact on the community.
I love that. From my experience, the Teen Space in person activities are so fun. I've been to a couple here in our New Jersey branch, and I think that just watching mental health advocacy happen in real life in front of you, it's just incredible seeing just the amount of people involved as well as the people excited for it. So I'm just wishing the best as always, and I'm sure our listeners are as well. But have there been any unexpected challenges or lessons that you've learned while setting things up?
Um, well, I've obviously I've mentioned this before, but the fundraising because there's not like an official TeenSpace New York bank account, so just figuring out like if we fundraise, like where we would put that money, that has been one of our biggest challenges, and also getting people to join because it's not necessarily a school club or like a sort of in person like organization, if that makes sense. It's been a little difficult to get people to like really become committed members to the club. So right now I'm in the process of like getting more people to join, especially with our last post with introducing our board. Now more people are starting to really filter in and really know about it. So I'm hoping now more members are going to start joining and stuff.
Yeah, outreach I feel is always a little bit difficult seeing that you don't really know who to contact and you're just waiting for someone to just apply. But obviously, knowing that TeenSpace has a really strong foundation, I'm sure that it'll get there. But this kind of is really similar, but how has your local community responded so far? So this could be with students or just schools in general or just any organizations that you've interacted with.
Actually, most of the people I know I mentioned that like it's been hard to like get people to join, but a lot of people have been very very supportive. They think what I'm doing and what TeenSpace is doing is very very admirable. I think the only reason that they haven't done anything about it is because I haven't really released anything where they could join. That is my bad. I'm just getting out of Google
No,
Forms
it's
soon.
okay.
But yeah, usually most of the time when I talk about it, they find it really nice and they think it's a really important part of helping people with mental health and advocating for more resources for teens for mental health.
Yeah, totally. I don't think there's anything wrong with creating that stable foundation before you can hit the ground running. Again, I'm sure you have so much planned, and this interview is mainly just to sort of be a benchmark. So in the future, we can look back and be like, "Wow, that was me when I had all of these dreams, and then now look at where we are as a chapter." In terms of like your mission, what are some of your main goals for your chapter? Speaking of which.
Um, some of my main goals for my chapter, I think first and foremost, I think it's getting Teen Space to have at least a statewide impact. Right now, since I'm from Long Island, so far it's been sort of localized there. So I'd like to get more people from the city and from upstate to really get involved in Teen Space and why. And currently, the way I'm trying to do that is to get more people who are from those areas to join Teen Space and to become more involved. So that way, that outreach occurs. Something else I'd like to occur is not only more in person events, but I'd like to have more in person events, and not only where I'm situated, but also in places like upstate New York and New York City. So that way, members who want to join, or I should say potential members who want to join, and people who are members in those areas actually have a chance to really participate in our chapter without having to make a long drive or having to only do it virtually. Actually, one of the things I'd want to do is a podcast. So this is very nice. It's like nice to see how it actually all works, and you're doing a great job. So
Thank you.
And yeah, I think just getting in more outreach and eventually creating a platform where people can reach out to us in case, not if they need mental health help, but if they need resources and if they want someone to turn to, if they want like ways to connect to people.
Great. I think that all of these goals are really achievable, even if they might not seem so right now. And I think that obviously there's so many willing people in obviously upstate New York as well as in the city. I
Yeah.
recently just interviewed a child psychologist from the city, and honestly, the way we were talking about it, it just really seemed like there was so much space for the teen space, and I'm really excited to see how your outreach goes.
Thank you.
Looking at your goals kind of in the long run, what do you think that like mental health means to you personally?
Mental health for me is sort of like the thing that ties your health together. So obviously physical health is very, very important, right? You can't really do much if you're not doing well physically. But what ends up happening in what I can see is that mental health is sort of the thing that sort of first off makes you want to care about your physical health, because I've had friends who, because of such poor mental health, they just completely disregard their physical health, which is terrible and causes like a lot of harm to them. And mental health is sort of something that like if you don't take care of it, and if you don't take it seriously, or if people don't take it seriously, it can ruin you. That's a very harsh way of putting it, but that's ultimately the truth. Because mental health is something that you can't see, and it's so easy to sort of mask, like to show that, oh, I'm doing fine, like everything's fine. The way that we measure mental health, like at least outwardly, so like people who go through a lot of academic stress, people who might be suffering from something at home or internally, it's very easy to make assumptions. And so I think having more mental health advocacy and making it more, obviously we've come a long way since like since when mental health like was first sort of discovered. But I think making mental health more accessible to the widespread public and to healthcare in general, I think would be really helpful, because it would both help with our physical health and also tie in with our mental health. Because the brain is at its like neuroscience, psychology, all of it is so much more abstract than we give it credit for. So by giving that grace and by allowing us to really hone in on it, I think that overall our health as human beings as a whole will be better. So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question.
No, that's perfect. I think that really speaks to your vision, and um, Teen Space as a whole really benefits out of having leaders like you who are willing to take that first step and who are willing to not just bystand while they see people around them suffering from mental health challenges or struggling with their self identity, and just really just getting out there, starting this platform, and getting people involved in the best way possible. Um, it's really profound hearing what mental health means to you specifically. Anyway, I know that we kind of covered it a little bit, but is there a specific project or event that you're really excited to launch?
So there's two events. So first off is our fundraising event, which we hope to start launching in the next 2 weeks, which is our actually inspired from you guys. It was really funny actually when you guys posted it because I had my meeting right. It was either right after or right before. I forgot which, and I don't know if like my fellow board members actually saw it because they were talking about bracelet making and selling bracelets, and I was like, huh, well, that sounds vaguely familiar. So we were actually planning to sell bracelets, which I know you guys did just recently. So I guess it's keeping up with that trend in order to raise money. And then from that fundraising, we hope to host our October mini marathon. So we're probably going to call it Mini Marathon for Mental Health, and we're going to have sort of a bunch of booths, and we're going to have a mini marathon within one of our local parks. So maybe Heckscher Park, um, Hoyt Farm, one of those. So people can come and join, and they can run, they can have food, they can make crafts, face painting. The logistics are still obviously in play, but that's what we're hoping to create.
That's so exciting. I can't wait to hear about it over social media.
Thank you.
Speaking of which, in terms of social media and more so outreach, how do you plan to build your team or recruit members? I know you mentioned you have a board. How is that process? And how do you plan to apply that to future outreach?
So the way I recruited my board was that on the TeenSpace New York Instagram. Plug right here. Please follow the TeenSpace _ New York on Instagram. Would really appreciate it if y'all could support us. No harm in putting it out there. But I post a Google form on that page where people could click on the bio and fill out the Google form in case they want to join. And what I plan to do for regular member outreach is probably more. First off, I want to do more like posters within my school so that way more people get to reach out to it. I'll probably also still do a Google form in my Instagram bio, but I will also plan on doing, on like sort of putting it out on LinkedIn, so that way I get more of an impact since more people tend to be on LinkedIn rather who might be interested because sometimes it could be hard finding this particular Instagram page. And then we just released our new TikTok. For our TikTok, which is at teenspace.ny, if you guys would also like to follow that, I want to start posting more. Not because I think our Instagram tends to be a lot more serious, which obviously mental health is a serious topic, but I would like to make our TikTok a little more engaging, a little more fun, so that way people start really getting to know Teen Space. And of course, we are, I think, I don't, obviously, I can't speak for you guys, but from what I understand of Teen Space, it's not only a platform where we educate people on mental health, but it's also a platform where we connect with people over mental health and really create a support system. And I feel like support systems aren't free of like have to have a little bit of fun, a little bit of humor, which is what I hope TeenSpace New York TikTok will be. So yeah, and yeah, so hopefully people will also join from there.
Great. Obviously, Teen Space is for teens by teens, so obviously all of those fun aspects are really important to really getting that idea that we are teenagers. We're supposed to have fun. And yes, mental health is incredibly serious, but also there's some room for, as you said, to really just converse about it in a non professional, completely black and white way. There are ways to enjoy conversations about mental health, even if they're hard conversations to have, that don't necessarily prioritize being that structured or formal. Additionally, if you are in New York right now and would like to reach out to Saswati as well as her team, I will link all of the different parts to joining the chapter as well as supporting the chapter in the description below. This is both for Spotify and YouTube, so that you can check out this New York branch and then also get to know some of the members. Are there ways that other chapters or students outside New York can support what you're doing?
Of course, just following the chapter. Obviously, unfortunately, people outside the state cannot join because it is a New York chapter. But obviously, just if you want to show up to the events, we will never turn you away. If you want to show up to any of the possible virtual events. We will never turn you away. And also just, supporting TeenSpace, supporting TeenSpace New York, I think is a great, and like sharing our message and sharing our platforms is a great way to get teen mental health advocacy out there.
Yeah, I was talking to Nisha, and she was really just like, even if you just share the profile or talk to your friends, hey, I found this organization the other day, it really means a lot to our organization as a whole, since we're able to get that, I guess, potential outreach. And just outside of outreach, I think it's just a really good message to share with your friends. I think it's also just important to ask your friends, hey, how are you doing? Even if it isn't in that way. Just checking up on them, but then also maybe recommending them to join something like this where they're able to speak up about some of the things that they're facing. I think that that's really important for that friendship, but then also important for us as a group. Just in general, what do you hope people take away from your work, whether they're in your chapter or just following along online?
I think the biggest thing I hope people take away from my work is, I know this sounds kind of off topic, but bear with me. I swear there's a
all right.
But I hope people understand the importance of communication. So obviously, TeenSpace is a platform for mental health advocacy. So I hope that people understand how important it is to communicate not only your feelings, but to the people around you, and communicate like that you care about them, that you want to be there for them, that you want to make sure that you would let them be there for you. Because in my experience, for mental health, it's a big thing because people often don't want to sort of burden people with their own problems, with their own health. And I think it's really important to show that we as a society should always be willing to help each other and always be willing to support each other. And really, that communication not doesn't even have to be anything serious, just like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, how have you been? Hey, I noticed that really funny dog photo that you posted, is he yours? Like, just like silly things like that, just like simple things like that. Because at the end of the day, humans are social beings, and just being there for each other and really just, making that effort to communicate with each other, making that effort to stay connected with each other, no matter where you are, no matter how you've been, I think is something that I really hope, which I think first off would help mental health and help mental health advocacy, because being able to talk about things like this and not holding them in such like a taboo regard, I think would really help people who suffer with mental health, or if they're too scared to say or understand that they are suffering with mental health issues, and understand that it's just a part of our everyday life. I hope that whatever happens with this organization, that is something that people take away from.
That was so well said. I think that in terms of takeaways, it's always important to realize just the impact that you're making. And just as you said, humans are social beings. Like, we need that connection, that's human interaction. And communication is always something that's always important. I mean, we were just talking about this, but if you look at tropes in TV shows or movies or books, even, the miscommunication is usually what ends up causing these problems, even if they weren't necessarily intended to be that way. And looking at how complex all of our emotions and feelings and intentions are, it's really understandable that someone might misinterpret what you're saying or misinterpret what you meant by that. And I think that in terms of strengthening communication, but also the ability to just reach out when you need help, it's just something that we as TeenSpace prioritize in helping others achieve. Now that we're kind of approaching our end of this interview, do you have one piece of advice that you'd give anyone who wants to start their own chapter or get involved in mental health advocacy?
Kind of tying back to my last point, talk. Just get out there. The literal reason I joined is because I just talked to my friend about, I was like, hey, what is this organization? Like, can I join? And here I am now doing this interview with Danielle and being part of this amazing team and platform. Never be afraid to take those chances. If this is something you are passionate about, take that action. Make your chapter. And I assure you, nothing bad will come out of it. Nobody's going to be like, she's so weird. Carrie. Of course not. That's never going to happen. I think you always miss the chances you don't take, and our life's too short to like not take those chances. So obviously, if this is something you care about, this is something you want to be involved in, communicate, get in there. You got this.
Yes, definitely. I think that it's such a small world because on this random Saturday, I'm here recording with someone I've never met before, but you can see that like friendship sort of coming alive, and I think that that's what TeenSpace kind of speaks for. I've met so many wonderful people. I've had so many wonderful opportunities because of TeenSpace. So if you're really looking to create your own chapter outside of New Jersey or New York or Minnesota, I believe.
Yes.
There are those opportunities out there. Just reach out to Nisha through the Instagram. And then also, just if you would like to come on this podcast or just share your story throughout one of our newsletters, there's so many opportunities for you to kind of put your foot in the door and get yourself out there and just start something fresh, something new, something exciting, just as you said before. I think if you also just want to get involved in mental health advocacy yourself, there are so many different resources outside of TeenSpace that we can mention. If you look at your local community itself, there's usually some sort of organization in charge of making those mental health walks outside of what we're doing in TeenSpace. You can also reach out to any local psychologists or any local medical professionals and maybe shadow them in some sort of way. There's just so many different ways to get involved in, I guess, healthcare, but as well as mental health advocacy that just make it so important as a subject matter. If you just want to repost on your Instagram things from 988 or just mental health advocacy institutes, whatever they are for your country or your area, those are also really interesting and exciting to explore. Just in general, having this conversation and sharing it with others and people you know really makes that first step towards something great and something beautiful, and not only helping others but as well as helping yourself and getting yourself into that conversation.
Yes.
This is sort of my last question. Obviously, we can talk a little bit more afterwards, just a free flow conversation, but how can listeners stay updated with your chapter's journey or get in touch with you?
If you to stay updated, first off, follow the Instagram and TikTok. We provide usually maybe not posts, but we provide story updates. I like to keep the Instagram updated on any TeenSpace related topics, even if it's not my own chapter. I love reposting what other chapters are doing and what the board is doing, podcasts, newsletters, because I think just getting involved in that community is very, very important. If you want to contact me or anyone else on my board, you can just message the TeenSpace New York and with any questions, and I'd be happy to answer them. I'm always at your service.
Yeah, there can't be anything more to it. All right, so unfortunately, that was like my last question for you formally, but I did actually prepare some extra questions since I really do like this conversation that we're having, and I'm really excited to meet you and introduce you to all of our TeenSpace listeners. So, wait, would you mind answering a couple more?
No, that'd be great. I really enjoyed talking to you as well.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, so this is great. Okay, so I guess my first question is personally, just in your experience, how you've navigated your mental health. What's something that kind of keeps you grounded when life gets stressful?
When I get really stressed, I tend to it's really weird actually. I tend to like get up from my seat or whatever I'm doing, and I just walk around in circles. So usually what I do if I'm like things are getting a little too much, I'll like take a step back from whatever I'm doing. I'll either take a walk outside, I'll eat something, maybe I'll just like, like scroll through my phone or talk or like call someone and just be like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed. I hate this assignment, like whatever. And yeah, that's usually what I do in order to keep myself grounded and sort of remind myself like it's not that serious. Like just because you can't understand what the derivative of two spirit is, it's okay. You'll be okay.
That's so funny that you say that. I think that as teenagers, obviously there is that pressure that we kind of didn't really experience before, since we're getting into that age where we're applying for colleges or going into more serious aspects of studying. I actually don't think that that's weird at all. Taking a step back isn't necessarily weird. even if it is to just pace around in circles. I think everyone has a method that works for them, and that's kind of why I wanted to ask this question. But it's really funny that you say that, because in one of my previous interviews, I was talking to a teenager who was researching neuroscience from a small country in Europe, and it's quite funny how similar your conversation is to hers, since we're both talking about that idea that maybe taking a walk or a step back or having some food to eat or talking to a friend, that those might be the best ways to de-stress, since you're not necessarily pausing the space that you were just in, but you're allowing yourself to just take a breath and then restart later. So yeah, I think that personally, to keep myself grounded, I remember that what you were saying. Wait, I remember a bit of what you were saying, that just because I'm doing this assignment does not, just because I'm struggling with this assignment won't be the reason why I'm rejected from college, or won't be the reason why I quit healthcare altogether. I think that it's really important to realize that it really just isn't that deep, you know? Obviously, it's really important to put all of your attention and focus into something, and really having that fear or that guilt is what tells you that you care. But again, it's really just not that important. You can take that step back, or prioritize your peace, prioritize your mental health, because that just means infinitely more than the singular assignment you're doing or anything like that. Obviously, that's for certain circumstances. I do acknowledge that there are some really important things, like maybe studying for the SAT, which will kind of decide a lot of your future. But just that in general, I think that because there's so many opportunities wherever you go to succeed, you don't necessarily need to fit some sort of cookie cutter, or need to be the exact person that you imagine yourself to be. I know I'm not, and I know that a lot of people just in general, they figure out who they are through the most unexpected ways. And actually, that'll move me on to my next question. What's something that you've learned about yourself through this process of starting a chapter, and how did you come to realize that?
Something I've learned about myself. I've learned that I mean, this kind of sounds weird, but I've learned that, like, mental health is something that I really care about.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it was, as I think I've mentioned before, it's always been, like, a part of my life. I've always, like, had friends who've, like, struggled with mental health. Obviously, I've struggled with, like, mental health as well. But I think really joining this chapter and making the effort to, spread this message has made me realize how integral it is to my life and how passionate I am about it, which ultimately pushed me into realizing that psychiatry is a field that I want to pursue in my future, because mental health advocacy, just helping people with mental health, is something that I'm very, very passionate about, and I would not mind spending the rest of my life being paid for and, doing it. Not obviously just for the money, but for the message that I would like to send.
That's so exciting. Back to kind of those personal questions. How do you normally take care of your mental health on a day-to-day basis?
I usually try to, like, I have a very boring life. I usually spend most of my day in school, and if I'm not in school, I'm studying. If I'm not studying, I'm planning what to study next. So usually I especially during junior and sophomore year, I never really took sort of that break for myself. Like, I was in this mindset if I'm not studying, I'm not doing enough.
Mm-hmm.
And what ended up happening is that I get burnt out a lot easier, and even when I'm supposed to be studying, my focus would, like, sort of deviate from what I'm trying to do, and it would hurt me in the long term. So what I do now is that I kind of take, like, a break. Like, I'll take, like, a 30-minute, an hour break from my work. And what I've realized is that 30-minute hour break, that's not what kills, like, your grades. That's not, like, if you take a break for yourself, like, your SAT isn't going to go from a 1600 to a 1300. Your grades aren't going to go from, like, hundreds and 90s to, like, 65s. Like, if anything, it's going to help you because you're not focusing all of your energy into one thing for 8 hours straight.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not what our bodies are made for. I think one of the most important quotes that I kind of live by now is that we work to live, not live to work.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, my academics are extremely important to me, but I also enjoy spending time with my family. I also enjoy talking with my friends, and feel that nobody should have to sort of completely destroy that social and pleasurable aspect of their life just so they can check a box off. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Yeah, I think that the academic pressures that a lot of teenagers face is something we didn't necessarily mention in this. But now that you bring it up, I think that a big message of TeenSpace itself is just that there are so many more aspects to you than just what you have to offer in terms of
Yeah.
a professional setting or maybe an academic setting, because we're so well rounded as people. As you mentioned, I love spending time with my family. I love
Yeah.
playing music. There's so many different
Yeah.
parts about you that you can kind of share with others and connect with others on, and just like taking care of yourself really
Yes.
is what makes you able to see others in a new light. Again, another personal question, but what's one thing that people might be surprised to learn about you?
I don't know if this sounds. I don't know if obviously this is the first time we've met, so I don't know if you're surprised by this, but I'm actually a lot more extroverted than I come off. Um, from what I've heard from my like friends and family, I have a very quiet voice. I tend to not really voice my own concerns, but I'm actually a very like I really like talking to people. I really like getting out there. I really like forcing people to join. I think one of the key moments, like at least one of my core memories that kind of shows this is I was walking through the halls of. So I think I mentioned before I went to the music advancement program at Juilliard. So I think it was like my first day there, and I was walking through the halls, and this random person, I thought it was someone that I knew. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, so good to see you." They're like, "Oh, I don't know who you are," and I was like, "Oh." Then I just said, "Oh, your outfit looks so great. It was nice to meet you. Bye." I didn't know who that was. Like, I don't know why I did that, but I guess I just really like connecting with people, and I think at least in our world, we need more connection, and we need more like just random acts of kindness, not for like any reason, not because I aim to be friends with that person or I plan to see them again, but just because they're a person and every person deserves to have to know that there's someone looking out for them. And even if I don't know you, I don't know your name, I don't know what you stand for, you still deserve it. And if my presence can sort of help with that, I think that's good.
That's so funny. I think I'm honestly the exact opposite. I definitely come off as extroverted. I always love to participate in different events and maybe just even in class. And I am
Yeah.
usually the person who just likes to speak out first, but mainly that's just because that's kind of how I was raised. I come from
Yeah.
a very talkative family. The thing is, I actually do enjoy like time to myself at times. There are times where my sister will be like, "Hey, do you want to hang out?" And I'm like, I think I'm reached my limit of people and conversations today. So I guess that kind of shows just both sides of the coin. That like you
Yeah.
can be introverted, but then also have a really extroverted personality. But then you can also be
Yeah.
extroverted, but then also have those times where you kind of need the introversion, that time to
Yes.
yourself. And I actually was so interested in this that I kind of studied it a little. And actually,
Yeah.
introversion versus extroversion isn't necessarily like the amount of time you spend talking to people. It's just whether
Mhm.
you get energy from speaking to people or like gain sort of your personality or that spark back versus
Yeah.
if you have conversations with people and then feel yourself a little drained afterwards. And if you need that time to kind of recharge, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that humans, obviously, as diverse creatures, as we've been saying over and over,
Yes.
there is that mix of a little bit of both. I'm never just an extroverted person, or I'm
Yeah.
never just an introverted person. And obviously, there are words for people who are like really in the middle, but just because you
Mhm.
align on one side versus the other does not necessarily mean that you're completely excused from feeling that way or connecting with others because you have that feeling.
Indeed. Yes. Completely agree.
Yeah, and I think that obviously there are things that are surprising to know about people, but especially when you first meet someone, they're just learning all the different aspects of who they are as a person. It's just the most exciting part, which is why it's exciting
Yes.
that we're having this conversation. And okay, this kind of is an exciting question for me since I know nothing about it, but since you're
Yeah.
based in New York, I know you mentioned Long Island. What's your favorite spot to unwind?
Well, okay. My one of my favorite spots, which unfortunately left,
No.
but we had a Barnes and Nobles in our town.
No.
Yeah, and what we do is sometimes me and my friends, or sometimes just me, we just go and sit in the Starbucks cafe in there. We'd study and just unwind. But since that is no longer there, usually what I like to do, honestly, I just sometimes just need to get out of my house. So if I'm running errands with my mom, I like to go with drives with my friends. So we might like stop by like some food place to eat, like Dunkin' Donuts or something. But for me, it's honestly just like sort of getting out of whatever space I'm in and just like having that change of scenery that helps me. And then, in particular for New York City, I have a soft spot for Lincoln Center because that is where I've spent every weekend for the past 4 years, and this is the first time I haven't been there. So that place kind of like is a really special part. And for upstate New York, I really like Finger Lakes because me and my cousin we went on a family vacation there, and it was really fun.
Yeah, I those places sound amazing. Obviously, we have Barnes and Nobles here in New Jersey, and actually, it's been a tradition for me and my closest friends to just like go to a Barnes and
Yeah.
Noble once every couple of months and just like debrief, talk about our lives, but then also just like sip our Starbucks, read our books. We'll do a competition of who can read more and stuff like that. But yeah, I think there's just so many different places to unwind, and those two that you mentioned in New York specifically, like I've never been to either of them, but just hearing about how special and close they are to you, I hope that everyone has like a place like that somewhere in the world. And even if it's just like your bed or like your couch or just somewhere you can always trust to relax, I think that that's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really great conversation. Okay, now I have one last, unfortunately, final question for you. What is next for you, personally or just for Space New York?
Well, I'll start with TeenSpace New York. Right now, we are in the depths of planning our events and fundraising. So I think just getting our platform more out there, getting more people to join, having like official memberships and meetings and whatnot. I think that's what's next for TeenSpace NY, and I can't wait to see where it goes. And as for me personally, it's mostly just college apps and just enjoying my senior year. So yeah, I can't wait to see where my life goes in the next few months, and I hope that whoever's reading, watching, not listening, sorry,
No worries.
whoever is listening to this knows that Teen Space will always be here for you, and all of the members here always want to do what's best for our community, not only in our personal communities, but also worldwide, nationally, whatever. Teen Space obviously is by teens, for teens. We are always welcome to help you with whatever you need, and we will always be
I love that. Yeah, as always, there's so many different new things waiting for you in life. And obviously, as you mentioned, we're so excited seeing where Teen Space New York goes, but also we're all rooting for you here. So, best of luck to
here.
you with everything you do in the future, whether it's Teen Space or just on your way to becoming a psychiatrist or anything like that. As always, we loved having you here, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to do a little status update and then film another interview, maybe a couple months or years, even maybe if it's possible in the future, just to catch up. But yeah, thank you for all your insight this interview. We definitely covered a lot of good topics and a lot of the standard bases for a TeenSpace podcast episode. Obviously, we covered the "You're Not Alone," the "We Need Connection," and the "Reach Out If You Need Help." All of those different topics, but in general, this was a wonderful, productive interview, and I hope that anyone listening got a really good idea of what TeenSpace New York is all about and what they're excited to do in the future. Now, to close off, where can we find you? And is there anything that you'd like to advertise?
While we do not have any events yet, keep your eye out. Please follow the TeenSpace New York's Instagram and the teenspace.ny on TikTok. If you guys want to email me, you guys can also email me at nyteenspace@gmail.com if you have any questions or if you don't have social media. And I just wanted to say before we end, thank you so much, Danielle, and to the New Jersey chapter of TeenSpace for first off allowing me to start this chapter. I really, really appreciate it, and this has been an incredible opportunity that I really credit you guys for being able to give me. So thank you so much, and thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast. This was a great experience. I love meeting all of y'all, and especially talking with you, Danielle. It was really, really fun, and I enjoy our conversation. So thank you.
Of course. And honestly, I loved having this conversation with you as well. I loved learning about this new branch of TeenSpace since I've always loved TeenSpace itself, but just seeing the prospect of a new branch and seeing all of the different new opportunities that are out there for us as a whole organization, it's just been really exciting. I'm really, really, really glad that we got to sit down, have this conversation, and I got to know you through this. Thank you again to everyone who is listening. I'll link a lot of the items that we mentioned during this interview in the description below. If you currently live in New York or want to get involved in TeenSpace New York, I'll make sure that you easily can find any links needed to sort of join that chapter and join Saswati on her journey, as well as her board. That sort of wraps up all that I had to say for this interview. Obviously, thank you again, Saswati, for being part of this, and I'm really excited to keep up with you in the future. So that's all from me for now. Thanks for being in the space with us. This has been the TeenSpace Podcast, and you can find all of our socials in the description below. Bye-bye! Thank you for sharing this space with us.